Hey guys, it's almost agreement time. I got the Compass guy with the good hair coming on. The other guy's getting hair plugs or something. I'll make jokes about that later. We're Almost in Agreement. You can find us on the internet at almostinagreement.com, on Facebook, on Twitter, or on YouTube. While you're at almostinagreement.com, you can get all the episodes available, as well as going to any of your favorite podcast providers. You can get us there too. While you're in any of these places, please like, share, friend, subscribe, follow, retweet, whatever the thing is. The more traction we get, the more we get exposure. The more exposure we get, the more people get to hear what we're doing here. And that's the goal, for me at least, because I'm super, super vain. I need to do little updates. The City Election 21, that's almostinagreement.com/cityelections21. I got to do some updates now that we've come out of the primary, but all the basic information's still there. I just got to subtract the people that aren't there anymore. I might get to work on that later tonight. Anyway, not important. Scott from the Compass is here. We're going to talk elections. We're going to talk school board. We're going to talk all sorts of stuff. It's been a month or so since we've hung out, so there's plenty to chat about. So we'll get started right as my silly song ends. Oh, and I got to fix my streaming settings because you're not here, but that's fine. I can see you. They can't yet, but I'll fix that right.
Oh, that's good.
There he is. All right, now we're up and running. Oh, boop, 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 boop. Boom. That's not right. What did I do? I really messed this up. Pro show, everybody. Anyway, so what's new in Compass Land, my good sir?
Well, it's the weekend. That's really nice. In Compass Land, after the last week it was pretty busy. We had the city election. We had the school board marathon meeting on COVID and all kinds of stuff going on this past week. So
yeah, I emailed Kyle Ward last night, tried to set up another interview with him, and I made the joke. It's like, well, it looks like all the COVID stuff moved to Board of Health or Board of Education, so you guys don't have to deal with that in commission anymore. So we don't have to talk about it in that same sense as we had to in the past. So I don't know.
Well, what you get to talk to Kyle and the rest of the commissioners about moving forward is going to be redistricting, which is going to be a fun exercise.
Right, which there's always...
there I am.
Yeah, fixed it. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting... I mean, it's you know me, I like the process, so I'm very excited to see the process in action. Are there's, especially with Kyle, who got... What is the phrase? He got appointed kind of the head of the redistricting committee, for lack of a better word?
Yes. He's going to be... he's chair of the redistricting committee. It's all the county commissioners plus the administrator of elections, Chris Davis, and the chair of the school board, new chair, Christy. So.
Right, and then I did hear that they're planning on a meeting where the entire school board is supposed to come and take part.
Yeah, the next meeting they have is going to be in about 2 weeks. I believe it's the 16th. Let me look. Yes, the 6th. I had to look at my calendar. I've got an old school calendar. I had to look at it. It's the 16th. They're going to they're going to be inviting the school board members there to talk to them because the county commission districts and school board districts now are identical. They don't have to be. And so they're going to get some input from school board members to see what they would like to see out of redistricting. That's what their concerns might be.
Right, and I did see some chat on one of the Facebook groups I'm in where Virginia was concerned about because she doesn't have a middle school in District 4 right now or something like that. I don't know exactly how it shakes down. I need to get maps out. For my sake and for the lay voter's sake, I prefer them to be as the same as possible because it makes things easier because I have one district to think about for two different bodies. And I don't know how important it is that a school board member has a set of schools because even if they have the schools in their districts, a portion of the students may not be a portion of the parents of the students in that school may not be in district, even if the school itself is. And so unless we reran districts around school districting, like the actual schools, not the school board, there's always going to be situations where you're going to have a group of parents that have students at a school that their school board rep is not repping the school that they're at, or vice versa. So it's going to be that part's interesting to me. I guess it's a no-win-ish kind of deal, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, well, it is. It's kind of a traditional thing that the school board members, kind of take under their wing the schools that are within their districts,
right?
Which makes sense,
right?
Because most of the parents, the voters who are in those districts are, their constituents, and but it's one of those things that can complicate redistricting, especially if you are trying to keep the school board districts and the county commission districts the same. And Chris Davis, the election administrator, at the last meeting kind of advocated keeping them the same because it makes it easier for him to administer the election. It does make it easier, I think, for constituents to know that if they're in the first district, they know the first district commissioner and the first district school board member are the same person.
Right. And I think for anything that simplifies it for the voter is useful. Because, I'm looking at, I pulled up the district map because I wanted to see if I'm remembering things correctly. I don't think either my kid's middle or high school is in my district commission / school board wise.
And I need to correct myself. I said they were the same person. They're not the same person, obviously.
It's the same number.
But they represent the same area.
Right.
So.
And I think it makes sense to me that there could be some logical overlap where the commissioner and the school board member could work together on certain items where they have a district partner, for lack of a better word. Not that there's a ton of overlap between what the commission can do with schools and not, but it gives the option there for a little. Again, it's the clarification's sake. To me, I think it's the most valuable out of it, because I don't know. Like there's already talk of, like, at least that I've heard, that Kyle Ward's trying to chop off the Sequoia Hills section and send it over to District 1, and that's the least, as far as previous voting stuff, that's the least friendly to his type of candidate. Maybe not him personally, but his type of candidate in the past in this district. And it's like, well, okay, gerrymandering's conversation is upon us. Let's go.
Well, yeah, it is. And one of the things that's interesting with redistricting is the fastest growing districts, Southwest Knox County, especially Northwest Knox County up in Hardin Valley, those commission districts will shrink geographically.
Right.
They have to because the
right. It's about number of people. It's not about square feet.
Yeah, the districts need to be roughly with the same population. So give or take some. There's some leeway, but by and large they need to be the same size. And so, these places where there's been a lot of growth, like Hardin Valley, that district will shrink geographically. Other districts will have to expand geographically. The first district is one of them. The 9th district in South Knox County is one of them. The 8th district is one of them. They're going to have to, and the 8th district is already huge geographically.
Right, but nobody lives over there. Yeah.
It's so rural, but it's going to need to grow as well. So geographic space to get more residents into it. So and it's one of those things where you start moving boundaries and there's a ripple effect.
Right.
To 2 and 3 and 4 districts away from where you are. So it's not as easy as just, we'll just lop off Sequoia Hills and Ward's district is going to be fine, because that sets in motion other things.
Right.
So,
right. And I mean,
And
again,
one thing that has to be considered also is, I mean, this is, you're talking about the first district. First district has the largest minority population of any of the districts. And one of the things about the Voting Rights Act is when you redistrict, you have to do your best to not dilute the minority vote. Sequoia Hills is overwhelmingly white. So adding that to a district that is that has a large minority population would dilute the minority vote. And there may be other areas that could go into the first district that would not dilute it as much.
Right, but it would have to be a big. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
There are all these factors that are in play, and it can be very complicated. And it's all political,
right? But that's exactly what I was getting ready to say. Because by the rules of the world that we live in, if you can do the things within the rules that are in play, that is to you or your party or your friend's advantage, however you want to phrase it, you're going to do it that way because you're just going to do it that way. It's not necessarily one party or the other. It's whichever party has control is going to play that game.
Yeah. So there. I mean, it's going to be it'll be fun to watch. You know, the county's doing it. The city will be doing it as well. Jesse's going to be covering the county for the most part. Although I went to the last meeting because it coincided with the school board meeting that he covered.
So yeah, I've never asked you guys that. I've been meaning to.
It's going to be starting on the 16th of September, and they'll face the same challenges of realigning districts and political shiftings, and they're doing it in the middle of an election. So that's I didn't even think about that. When is when do they have to have it done? By the end of the year. I'm not sure the exact date, but it's right around the end of the year.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess to me, as long as I've been paying attention, which isn't particularly long in fairness, realistically, how big of a functional change can this redistrict do to the politics of Knox County? To me, it feels like, okay, so, again, I keep picking on this one because this is the one that's already out in the air, chopping off Sequoia Hills, making District 4 even redder than it already is or whatever. Even with Sequoia Hills as a red district.
Well, that wouldn't change the makeup of council, for instance. The county commission.
That's what I mean. There are
other moves that can be made that might, for example, the South Knox County, the district there needs to expand. They could expand north and get Sequoia Hills. And the first district could expand north into North Knoxville, which has a larger minority population than Sequoia Hills does. And it would be dilute the minority vote in the first district less than Sequoia Hills would.
Right.
But that would take people away from the second district, which is most of North Knoxville and Fountain City.
Right.
It would have to expand somewhere.
I'm looking at it. Yeah.
That could, if it depends on what direction it expands, could increase the number of Republican votes. The second district is a fairly, right now we've got a Democrat who represents it.
Right.
And depending on the makeup of the district after redistricting, it could be advantageous for the Republicans. So
right, because you could push. Right, you could push.
They could the 2 seats they have on commission.
Right, because you could push District 2 up and take a chunk of 6 out, and it's still kind of touching itself, and that would give a bunch of the Powell area to District 2, which would probably tend to lean righter, and then that would take some of those people out of 6, which is the largest growing district, if I understand. 6 is where where Hardin Valley is, right?
Right. Yeah. That's basically everything is going to have. Basically, all the districts to the east and south are going to have to grow in size, and the districts west will shrink in size.
Okay, and so, all right, I get it.
So
okay.
It's a matter of how you draw those lines, but I mean, is a general principle,
right.
That's what's going to happen.
But like in the most, I'm trying to think of this in the most egregious gerrymandering version that I think I could think of off the top of my head right now, without the historical greatness that you probably have to me, would be to really just carve out a big chunk of 2, or grow a big chunk of 2 into what would assumably be a farther right-leaning 6, which 6 would stay red. That could make 2 at least a solid purple instead of the solid blue that it's become.
Yes, that would be
sweet. So
that's one possible outcome.
Right. Okay. Because again, I'm just it's again, to me, like, I get it, and I don't like the premise of gerrymandering. I don't like the idea that you can redraw lines to your group, team, whatever you want to call its advantage moving forward. But I don't know. Again, for my short-lived Knoxville political analyst career, I don't see any version of it that it's going to do a significant change to how we do county politics as it stands.
Well, and when you get right down to it, a 9-2 Republican majority as opposed to a 10-1 Republican majority, there isn't a great difference.
Right.
So
exactly. That, again, yeah. That being the thing, and again, that's just because that's assuming the at-large stay. I've heard that too. If there's been conversation thrown around about trying to add at-large to the school board, do you know the process for that?
I don't. To the school board, I do for county commission, but I don't. The school board is education is governed under state law.
Right.
And I don't know what the process is. My guess is they could probably go ahead and do it fairly easily, probably more easily than they could change the number of county commission seats, because that requires a charter change.
Right, and charters are a serious process.
Well, you have to get a voters have to vote on charter change.
Right.
So it would be several years down the road.
Right. And
they need to go ahead and do the redistricting now. So
interesting stuff. So on the school board topic, the governor's getting sued. Have you seen that? I'm sure you've seen that if you've not covered it yet directly. Was that in the? Would you guys do?
Yeah, we've seen it. We know about it.
Well, what was funny to me, this is what I've started to enjoy about actually gaining some real knowledge in what we're doing. I got into a little bit of a spat with somebody on one of the Facebook groups about it. It's like, why are we like? So a lawyer came on and explained to me why, but I was like, why is Mayor Jacobs involved in this lawsuit? And somebody's like, well, he's the CEO of Knox County. It's like, yeah, but that has nothing to do with the schools. And so I got in a back and forth about how much Knox County actually has to do with Knox County schools, which, as you said, the school board and schools are state entities. They just have the title of Knox County Schools. I find that an interesting. It's an interesting little tidbit. But
one of the things is if Jacobs is the CEO of the county, as it were, he might be the right person to do this. If he's not, they'll
right.
That this lawsuit would still go on. I mean, it has nothing to do with the merits of the case.
Right.
And it's not like he's personally liable for any damages or anything. It's,
right.
It's his position. So
right.
That's kind of it's interesting.
Right. Exactly.
It doesn't go to the merits of the case.
Right. I agree.
Which is what really matters.
Right. For sure. But it's like, I mean, any good lawyer is going to put as many names on the defendant side as he can. The court will weed it out, and at the other side, you're going to have the real deal. If you get lucky and one squeezes through, you got one more person that has to defend themselves. And especially in one like this, where it's a public thing, it's more of a public process than it is actually about the monetary of the lawsuit.
Yeah. Well, and the Knox County Law Department will defend everybody who's involved.
Right.
They'll defend the school system. They'll defend Jacobs. They'll defend county commission, whatever. It's still the same legal team.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, what a crazy world. All the things.
Yes.
So city elections. We had city elections. That happened. My predictions were terrible. I won one of three. I was correct on one of three who weren't going to make it through the primary. I thought the city council movement had more movement to it than apparently it did.
I was. I have to say, I was pretty much not surprised by the results. I didn't make public predictions about them, but I'm not surprised at the results. I am a little surprised that the city council movement did not get more votes. I'm not surprised that they didn't move on. I figured that they would probably finish third in all three of the races they were in, but I thought they would do better.
I'm pleased as punch that the homeopathic incident didn't bury that District 1 race. That was my entire basis of why I thought Hayes was going to get through, not because of Hayes, but because of the other thing that happened or that was discussed. I mean,
you mean Elizabeth Murphy's unique view of homeopathic healthcare? Yes. That didn't surprise me that she, got what she got because she was running as a Republican, and the southernmost part of South Knoxville is generally red. And one thing now, most of South Knoxville is blue,
right? And the election shows that.
And I thought that I knew that Tommy Smith would do well in win. I figured he would come in first, but like I said, I was a little bit surprised that David Hayes did not pull in more than 300 and something votes. None of the city council movement candidates got more than 400 votes. So.
Yeah, it was. I was surprised with that part as well. I figured if any of the three were really going to make a run at it, it was going to be Harper, but she didn't. I mean, she did what, 350, 370 or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of the things that that she had is she was running against a popular African American leader who's been involved with the power structure of the black community for decades. So, it was going to be tough for her as it was, and she did great. Not great, but she did well in the East Knoxville districts that are predominantly African American. She did not do well in far western part of the district, which is where Garrett Holt did well, and is he's that's the one district where race is a factor,
right?
And
again,
he's a white candidate in a traditionally. In a district that is traditionally represented by African Americans,
and that was the basis of why I thought
he did well. He did well in the majority white precincts, and did not do well in the majority minority precincts.
Right, and that was that premise was my entire basis of why I didn't think he was going to make it through the primary. I thought Harper.
Well, it was very close. It was very close. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but it was.
Well, just because I'm a stoner adjacent, he got 420. It was 420.
Yeah, and he got 350 or something.
Yeah, it was like 350, 370 for Harper. So,
so it was pretty close.
So the other a couple weeks ago, me and Sam on the Big Show were chatting about because he's in District 1, and it was before the primary for him, and I was like, "Who are you going to vote for? I don't get to vote in this." So what are you going to do? And so we got to chat about it, and I had a thought while we were talking, and I'm curious what you would think about it. In that, so like District 6 probably being a better example with some of the points you already made, with Gwen McKenzie being a very popular black woman candidate in a majority black district against another very capable black woman in Harper, and then you got this Garrett Holt guy that's just kind of there. But as a constituent, what do you think as a constituent you would be better off of trying to do a little bit of primary fixing in the sense that let's get Harper. Let's see what we can do to get Harper through against Gwynn, so that we can get a more fine-tuned version of a candidate that we like instead of the far right-left, which is what's happening now. And again, I
don't know. I don't know that anybody who. Right. I don't know that anybody actually.
But I would say hypothetically, do you think it would
goes through those machinations to do that? Vote for. I know I personally have never voted for somebody in hopes that something else will happen in a subsequent election.
Right.
I try to vote for the and I think most people are that way. They vote.
I agree. I 100% agree. I guess it's just the hypothetical of as a constituent. Are you better served to have two closer candidates fighting over the position than two further apart candidates? It's a broader question of what politics has become, and that it's such a diametrically opposite A-B choice that we seem to get in so many elections. I just like the premise struck me as interesting on whether it would be, because I joke all the time. I'm District 18 in the state house. I'm District 6 in the state senate. For me, the Republican primary is the election historically, so that vote between two ideologically similar people, maybe three in a primary, to me has more value because I'm fine tuning the version of the thing as opposed to the big far left, far right conversation. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Until this year, it was much more likely that you were going to have two people in the general election in a city race who were very similar into what they wanted, and it was where they were two versions of the same policy ideals. I guess is the best.
No,
way
yeah. I get you.
It was much more likely for that, and this year with the and this is something that the Knox County Republican Party did, is they've made it a right-left thing, whereas before, the council members might have been a little more left or a little more right, but it really didn't matter, because what you were talking about in city council races, those are very much nuts and bolts, basic municipal services elections.
Right.
The whether you are a Republican or Democrat when you vote in state elections or federal elections, what usually gets things going is going to neighborhood organizations, working with them, working with the businesses in your district that to try to get help them out and doing those kinds of things that are really not ideologically driven. I mean, there's no, it's famous to say there's no Republican or Democratic way to fill a pothole. And you go back to Victor Ashe when he was mayor. I mean, the thing about Victor Ashe when he was mayor was he made sure the basic stuff got done. He wasn't a charismatic, guy. He got elected 4 times.
I mean, he's got an excitable opinion comment, that's for sure.
He got elected 4 times because he was competent.
Right.
And city government, the basic things. The police came when you called them. Fire department put out fires. They picked up the garbage on time. They mowed the grass in the parks. Those are the kinds of things that city government does.
Right.
And none of those are ideological. And I remember when down. Yeah. No, I remember when George W. Bush came to Knoxville shortly after 9/11 to give a speech at the Civic Coliseum. I I was part of the media pool there, and I started talking to a reporter from the New York Times, Elizabeth Boomiller, who now I believe is still the Washington bureau chief there. But anyway, Elizabeth was talking to me, and she said, Victor was introducing Bush. He was up there speaking, and she said, "Oh, he's your mayor. He's really popular, isn't he?" And I said, "No." And she looked at me and she said, "What do you mean? He's been reelected 3 times." I said, "Yeah." I said, he's not really popular in the sense that everybody just worships him and loves him. He's popular because
everybody knows he's going to get the thing done.
The services get done,
right?
And that was his genius, was knowing what was doing. I mean, he used to drive around the city, and if he saw a stop sign askew at an intersection, he would call the public works people and tell them to come fix it. Because the stop sign needed to be upright and visible and everything else, and that's the kind of guy he was. And that's really, up until this year, that's been what city elections have been about. And we'll see, and it may be this year. I mean, we've got most of the city council members who are the incumbents. That's how they got elected. Lauren Ryder she came up through the neighborhood organization and working with neighborhood organizations, which is a traditional stepping stone to running for city council. Andrew Roberto, he spent all of his time up until COVID hit going to neighborhood meetings and meeting with neighborhood groups and things like that to make sure that he took care of those constituents. And that's the kind of street level politics that has always worked before.
Okay, so
now, will it work this year and moving forward? We don't know, because it's a brave new world.
Right, for sure. So I guess the question that comes out of that to me is that, like, you've been around it for a while, you know more than I do for sure. Like, what is functionally the most important characteristic of a city council person? Like, as you went through all the different things Ash did and some of the stuff Lauren Ryder did as far as the political process to get there, because again, one of the things that I struggle with the most, and again, the premise of the show being I'm a guy that doesn't know that much, and I'm trying to figure out who's what. Really, this whole show and all the interviews and everything I do in the show is trying to figure out. Like, I guess the best analogy I've come up with is like, we're the hiring manager here, right? This is an election. We're hiring people to do a job. What's the job? And I don't think I don't think I'm unique in not knowing what the actual job is. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I'm struggling with, and I'm trying to figure out, again, this is all kind of hypothetical because I'm not in the city personally, so I don't get to vote in city races anyway. But for those that listen that are city people that are similar to me, what does a city councilor do? And what characteristics would make them a better city councilor than, because I mean, as far as I understand it, I agree with you in the sense that, like, it's not, these aren't the big sweeping political issues of the day, abortions and, foreign relations kind of stuff. This is brass tacks. This is what is the city doing to make it so that I can get to and from work and without taking 7,000 hours in traffic and stuff like that. So again, like, I don't know, just off the top of your head, if you're going to do a now hiring ad for a city councilor, what are like the top 5, I don't know, whatever you can come up with off the top of your head, because I know this is a pretty significant question. Top 5, like, not attributes, but like job duties of a city councilor.
Well, I mean, the job duties are pretty, straightforward. I mean, basically it's, you pass ordinances and resolutions that spend money and, and that sort of thing. So, I think getting more to your point is what are the attributes of a good city council member? And I think that the key attribute to me, after 25 years of observing things is being able to build coalitions and consensus. And that sounds broad, but in practical terms, I mean, in Knoxville city government, it's a strong mayor form of government. The mayor holds, all of the power of administering the government. So, I mean, if you're a city council member and you say, I'm running and I want to eliminate red tape. Well, city council members don't do squat about red tape.
Right.
That's the function of the mayoral administration. But what you can do is you can get programs in, and you have to be able to work with the administration because it's a strong mayor form of government. You almost can't get anything through without, I said almost, you can, but it's very difficult to get anything through without the help of the administration. You have to bring community groups in. You have to bring, you can't violate the Sunshine Law by talking to your other commissioners, but your other council members. You can't go to the media and get your ideas out there.
Hello as well. Well, because I have a good example of that. I don't know if you got a chance to catch the episode I did with the ACLU as well as Amelia Parker on that particular issue. This gets us off topic a little bit, but that's one of those things that it's concerning, for lack of a better word, that it doesn't seem like the mayor's office has any desire to even address the topic, and since the mayor's office doesn't want to deal with it, then functionally speaking, the conversation's kind of dead right now. And
here's and this is where it takes patience, and also takes the ability to do this. And I'm not going to speak directly to that particular situation, but I'll give you an example of how it worked.
Okay.
And that was over the past year, or actually longer than a year, because it takes a long time. You can't just bring up something at a city council meeting and expect people to vote, or change their minds or endorse your idea. And that's the first time they hear of it. You got to work on it long term. And one of the things was there's an association, basically it's a faith-based association called Justice Knox. Congregations from all over Knoxville, all different demographics, they took as their primary focus affordable housing. And they wanted the city to establish an affordable housing trust fund to help fund affordable housing projects. And at the very beginning of it, what they would do is they would hold annual meetings. They would invite city officials and put them on the spot and say, "Will you do this?" And no politician wants to be put on the spot cold,
right?
And they didn't make much headway. But after the election 2 years ago, Lynn Fugit was at-large city council member, new, took it on herself to work with Justice Knox and the administration. And she met with them brought them all together, got them at the table, worked with them. They went through all kinds of, back and forth and demands and stuff like that. And they ended up establishing an affordable housing trust fund that is by ordinance, and it was passed by city council, I believe unanimously, for the next 8 years, I believe it is.
Right.
The city's going to spend $5 million a year on affordable housing, period, at least. And in fact, the first year they're spending more than $8 and that's that's if you wanted to say, okay, what city council member has done the most for affordable housing? They all talk about it.
Right.
Well, I think you could probably make the argument that Lynn Fugit has, because she pushed that through, but she did it by working with the administration, working with the advocacy groups, getting them to lay down whatever swords they had and compromise and work together, and got it done. And that's what an effective council member does.
Okay. Because again, like I said, like that's like that's tough. I get it. It's just odd.
It's not sexy. It's not sexy. It takes a long time. It's very difficult to do. It's a lot easier to grandstand about something or complain about something or whatever, but sitting down and rolling up the sleeves and doing the work, and you've got to build. And really, the most effective city council members that I've seen over my 25 years have been the ones who've been able to sit down and work with people who are not necessarily in agreement with them, but they're all willing to work to get something done. And and often people aren't completely satisfied, but progress gets made.
Right. It moves in the direction too, instead of just sitting the way it always is. Right. I get it. Because again, it's interesting. Like as a person new to the game, it's interesting just trying to see it at play. Because I mean, for all intents and purposes, I haven't been paying attention long enough to have seen this one happen from scratch. Maybe, I don't know. I didn't really dive into city much until this election cycle, because I've been playing that game. I'm trying to pull some debates. I've invited every district to a in studio debate with me. It's gonna be weird. Hopefully, I can pull that off. It'll be fun.
Good luck with that.
Well, I mean, it goes to your point. I think you have to I think one of the things that some of the candidates, even though they've made it through the primaries, are missing is accessibility, for lack of a better word. I feel like there's a number of candidates that took a pass on a number of the events that were put in place for one reason or the other, and I think I don't think that's gonna fly anymore now that we're through the primary. Fine, you made it through the primary, but I don't know. Have you talked to Elizabeth Murphy at all?
I interviewed her a couple of times. Yeah.
Well,
I've talked to her.
Well, fine. You're more respectable than me, apparently. That sucks. I mean, I've spoken to her.
I'm more respectable than you. Maybe I'm more.
I mean, you guys are more established than I am. I get it.
Maybe I'm luckier than you. I don't know.
I don't think.
No, I interviewed her for an article that we did on the candidates in the first district.
Right.
All three of them.
Yeah, I know.
I talked to her on election night. I talked to her, and she was, spoke with me there. One of the things is she missed a couple of high profile forums.
Right.
That a lot of people have complained about. She didn't. She has been to a couple of others. They were just the lower profile ones.
Yeah.
The one she missed was a League of Women Voters forum, which is usually the kind of the biggest of the cycle.
Well, yeah, a lot of people miss that one.
She also missed the South Knoxville, the South. Can't remember the exact name of the organization, but the business community in South Knoxville, business organization, put on one, and she missed it. But she had been to a couple of others, so I don't know. She said that she had scheduling conflicts. I don't know.
I feel like you kind of give some of that up to if you're going to run, but again, you're still a human being. You're allowed to have scheduling conflicts. I'm not going to be too mad at it. Also, I'm
yeah, that's a funny thing, and some people have, and this has been true. This doesn't, no reflection on any of the the current office holders is something that I've known for, my entire career, or seen my entire career. Some people have more demanding jobs than others. Some are more flexible than others. Some can't, and they're all employed doing something else.
Right. The realtors, right? The ones that are realtors, they're the ones that usually have the best the best schedule options.
Yeah, but there are others who have jobs like, there's several council members over the years have been attorneys.
Yeah.
Well, it's all well and good to call them at 2:00 in the afternoon to get a comment, but you got to remember that they charge by the hour, and their calls to you as a journalist aren't billable. So they might be,
right.
They might not respond till 6:00 in the evening or whatever. So it might not be as, the retired person who's on council, you might be able to get them the first call.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, or the realtors that they're answering their phone like crazy because they hope you're trying to buy a house from them. So.
Yeah.
Or sell a house. So right now, you want to sell a house. That's
Yeah.
If you're a realtor right now, if you're buying a house, they're like, meh. If you're selling one, they're getting excited.
Yeah.
But that's crazy to me. I can't get my head around this housing issue. Like, I don't know. Like, I get it, but I don't. Like, it's just weird. Like, I've had a buddy who's been trying to buy a house for about 2 years, and just like everything he sees is either way out of price range or way less house than he wants. And we were talking about it last week. I was like, man, I think you got to bite the bullet. I don't think we're going anywhere on this one.
Well, I mean, long before, COVID and this most recent upheaval in the market, we were looking for a house. It took us a couple of years to find the one we wanted. We had very specific
right
things we were looking for and weren't going to, we weren't going to, there were, we had specific geographic areas, specific house type, that sort of thing. But,
right. You had to have a Zoom room.
What now?
You had to have a Zoom room ready. You thought about it.
Well, we did not know about the Zoom room at the time. And we actually have a couple of makeshift Zoom rooms.
Yeah.
So
not as cool and dedicated as mine is, but that's because I'm a dork and I have way too much fun.
No. You
got to get over here sometime. You got to see the studio.
I've seen it once.
When did you see it?
Over there. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to go back and review the tape. I really don't think you've ever been here.
Okay, maybe I haven't.
I might be crazy. I don't know. We're
I might be hallucinating. Who knows?
I have whiskey brain right now, so it's perfectly possible that I'm forgetting all sorts of things. Okay, so I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of other stuff that's not. I don't know. Like, I'm so tired of the mass conversation and the some of the general stuff that kind of overtakes, the media cycle, for lack of a better word. I don't know, something neat that you've done some work on that maybe gets overlooked because it's not as high profile as the other stuff going on right now that maybe people have missed, or even I've missed, that I'm certainly curious about.
Oh, well, that's a good question, because we try to get, we try to, focus on, the big picture things, the things that are important to people. There are several things. I think that there are some innovations going on that are interesting, that don't get the attention that they might otherwise because of the pandemic and things like that. One of them, and this is just an example, it's not the only one, or maybe not the most important one, is that that now when Rural Metro is called out on an ambulance call, they have they will give you the option, if you're, it depends on the problem.
Right.
But if it's not an obvious emergency, they'll give you the option of going to a walk-in clinic or an urgent care clinic or something like that instead of going to an emergency room. prior to, believe it was the beginning of the month, they couldn't do that. If Rural Metro went out there and they're going to take you somewhere, they took you to the emergency room.
Right.
That's all they could do. But now they go out there, they use telemedicine to get a doctor's opinion. If you have, let's say a dislocated shoulder, they might say, well, listen, it would be easier for you to either drive or have someone else drive you to an urgent care clinic than for us to take you to the emergency room. And you take that option, and they'll even call an Uber for you. And if that's what that's what you want. But that can save consumers thousands of dollars, because it's expensive to take an ambulance ride,
right?
And it's expensive to get treated in an ER, and it's a really big sea change in how non-emergency calls are treated by the ambulance service. And we wrote something about it when it happened, when they announced it. But I mean, nobody paid attention.
Yeah,
but it's a really big deal.
Yeah, because
and County is one of the rural metros trying it here, and it's one of the few places in the country where that happens now, and we're on the cutting edge of that change in medical transport,
right,
and medical treatment.
Yeah, that is actually super neat and super cool, and super didn't notice it until you just told me about it. Because one of the ones that I thought was really neat that went on in the state this year that I don't think got a lot of coverage, that I thought was worthy of some airtime, for lack of a better word, was the text to 911 thing. I can't remember exactly what they called it or whatever, but you could, like, the systems weren't in place for emergency services to take texts. And depending on the situation, that could be the preferred version for your own safety. Like, I'm hunkered down in my basement because there's a guy running around upstairs. I don't want to call and be like, hey, save me. I want to text, be like, hey, there's some dude in my house. I'm freaking out, and not have to be audible. And so I don't know if it's actually been implemented yet, but that's something that the state is doing and passed this year. That's a cool thing. Like, I think that's like a logical, like, these are things that I want government to do that make sense that government does. And, that's it. I don't know that it got a news cycle at all. I talked to Massey about it when we did a session review, but other than that, I don't remember hearing anything about it.
Yeah, well, there's been so much that has gotten overlooked because of COVID-19. Period. I mean, it is dominated, and rightly so. I mean, it is.
I agree.
It's a global pandemic. I mean,
okay. So here's a question. Then
the number one story, but a lot of other stories that would get more attention, in other times aren't getting as much attention now because of.
Okay,
pandemic.
So just for my own, like, I don't know, antagonist's sake, do you think that story would have had better traction outside of the pandemic, even in the middle of elections and other stuff going on? Do you think people actually, I mean, I think people care, but do you think people care enough to notice? This is one of those things I struggle with.
I think that it would have been a little bit, more broadly known, in and of itself, maybe not. I mean,
because I guess what I'm saying,
I pay attention to this stuff. You pay attention to this stuff. A lot of people don't.
Right. Well, because I guess, to me, like, I'm thinking about, like, all the different arguments that I've gotten into and watched happen on I can't ever say the word right, the colloquially, the stuff that gets, like, the good stuff where it's like, hey, I really appreciate Scott wrote this article today. If you hadn't checked it out, check it out, that kind of stuff. But for the most part, like, anything that I've noticed that has, like, real discussion and real depth to it and people going back and forth and discussing issues, don't tend to be stories like that. But I think that's part of I think part of that lays on social media just as much as it lays on we the people for engaging in the conversation. But I don't know, it's interesting to me. I've tried, like, that's one of the things that, I don't know, I'm not stopping doing podcasts because I have too much fun doing the podcast. But if they're like, I have a very low expectation for ever going any realm of professionalism with the podcast, because I don't think enough people pay attention to make this a profit rearing enterprise for me in the format that we do stuff in. You guys have made it so, and for all accounts, I know it's been a long road to get there, but you guys also are leaning on, what you said, 25 plus years experience for you. Jesse's got like 20 and something of his own, where I've got now 18 months of experience to try to jump in, to try to jump into the same waters. And I'm not trying to do a more standard journalistic journalistic style thing, but I think there's the lack of interest really gets to me. Like, it really bothers me that the lack of interest from the public at large at the real things that are happening, and that the public at large is too quick to get distracted by the big fun argumentative story, and we're not paying it. Like, we just don't pay attention. And that's what I don't know. That's what I struggle with, because that's why I get in the most arguments about the details. I brought up the Jacobs thing in the lawsuit earlier. Again, I agree. You throw as many names in the hat as you can when you're doing a lawsuit or whatever. But like, one of the issues I continue to have is trying to understand, as the hiring manager for these people seeking jobs through elections, who am I laying the blame for on problem X? Who am I celebrating for success Z? Because it's so convoluted that most of us don't know who actually did what, to then go and either celebrate or chastise the person who made that happen. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Part of that, I think, is our desire to have kind of a cut and dried thing. This person is good. This person is bad. This person did the right thing. A lot of times things are more gray areas. So it's, in real life. So, you get a little, and that's where, oftentimes, politics is somewhat detached from real life, because real life is a lot messier than politicians like to claim, because it's a lot easier to say.
See, but I think that's our job. Like, our job is to clarify that when they try to cleanse it, yeah, and make this an A/B conversation. Because again, I get into it. I am suspect to the trap too of making this an A/B conversation when it doesn't necessarily need to be. And it's frustrating to me, because again, the best example I think we had, this was pre-2020 election. We were going on, Trump or Biden, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, this was actually during primaries when Sanders was still a thing. So it's like, would you rather vote for somebody that you 100% believe they're going to try to do what they're saying they're going to do, but you disagree with everything they're doing, or somebody that you have no idea what they're going to do, which would have been the Biden or the Bernie Trump race if it got there. That was our simplification of it. And it's like, we as the public can't seem to suss out our own priorities in what matters, and then apply those to the people that are actually running for the positions that can mess with said priorities. And we can't give, like you said, it tries to be an A/B, and it's like, well, there's 20 issues that matter to me. Am I going to vote for the one that's right on 11, or right on the top 3, but wrong on other ones? I don't know that most people think of it in those kind of terms. And I don't know how to get that across, because I think that's the biggest problem we have as a society moving forward with our relationship with our government.
Well, I think one of the a more concerning phenomenon is that we, as a society, have decided that you're going to pick a team, and you're going to support that team no matter what.
Right. Even when that team said a month ago thing A was evil, and now a month later thing A is the right thing to do, because team B is now on board with thing A, and now we got to switch sides. Yeah, I agree. I think the partisanship
I think that's plenty of examples out there. I don't necessarily want to my problem is if I give one example, the other side, the one side will be mad at me, and the other side won't.
Right, you're
But,
in it.
I mean, one of the things. We go back to vaccines. The one thing that the last year of the Trump administration, they pushed through Operation Warp Speed, which developed the vaccines in record time. Everybody, including everybody in the Trump administration, said all we got to do is get the vaccine out there, and that's going to be our saving grace. That's what's going to do it.
Yep.
So all the and actually Republicans, Democrats alike said that. And so then we get the vaccines out here, but Trump's gone. Now Biden is the president, and all of a sudden there are not everybody who's anti-vaccine is Republican. Don't get me wrong. But let's go back to that gray area, folks. but by and large, I think a lot of the opposition to vaccines comes from Trump supporters and a lot of Republicans. And it's very weird because that was you could make the argument that that's the one thing that that Trump did in response to the vaccine, response to the pandemic, that was an unmitigated success.
Right. Because and even to be fair to the reality at the time, I believe it was Kamala in one of the primary debates or something like that basically said, I wouldn't trust anything that the Trump campaign put out. It was basically her saying, I'm not going to take the vaccine that Trump creates. And then now she's on the, hey, you got to take the vaccine side. It's the other side of the same coin. But yeah, no, I'm agreeing with your point. Yeah, is that that this thing that is the world we live in now, and it's the totality of it that's the most frustrating. It's that just to stick on the vaccines for example, is that it's like I'm proud that I got my vaccine. I'm doing my thing. Blah 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 whatever. Somebody out there is going to see that and say you're a Democrat because you got the vaccine, and it's like no, that has nothing to do with A or B. But now they somehow draw an entire picture of who I am, at least as a political person, based on one item.
Yeah,
and
but that goes to the whole pick a team and stick with them right or wrong thing. If you I think that is something that you kind of it makes it easy because you don't have to think.
Right. That is a proper phrase.
If you say I'm a Democrat and I'm going to support whatever Joe Biden says, then I just have to listen to what Joe Biden says and support it.
Right.
Same goes with Republicans.
Right.
I'm a Republican. I'm going to listen to what Donald Trump or Mitch McConnell says, and I'm going to follow that no matter what.
Right.
Even if you don't agree with it.
Right.
You would otherwise agree with it.
Right, and I think it goes down. I don't know. Maybe this is my naivety of the situation. The biggest problem I have as I've been exploring it is it's almost structurally built to be that way. Like little stuff, like little basic things, like redistricting that we were talking about earlier. Ballot access for other party kind of stuff. It's like I could see where it's not hard to convince somebody that you have to be, especially people that are single issue voters, because I think that's a bigger problem in and of itself. But like if you're a single issue voter, abortion being an easy one, if you're a single issue voter, then you're on team blue, that you want abortion to be a legal option for ladies if they need it. And you have to, like, I could see how it's an easy sell for a politician to say, like, if that thing is important to you, you have to vote for me. I could be the wrong thing for every other thing you care about, but if that one's important, then you have to be on team me. And then the structures that go behind it, the primary thing, the more I understand how primaries work in the state and stuff like that, the more I don't like it. As much as the city's supposed to be nonpartisan, this year being, I guess, the anomalous, which is probably going to be the new normal, sadly. like it's hard for me to see a way out of this team mentality when we only have two teams to pick from, because I think it's going to be hard to convince people that you don't have to be on a team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there was a time, it wasn't that long ago, but certainly within my lifetime or my adulthood, that there were pro-choice Republicans and pro-life Democrats.
Right. Well, I mean, there was, anti-gay marriage, Hillary Clinton, and
yeah, and it was one of those things that that was one issue, but it wasn't. You did not, and still, the parties were still split. Pro-choice, Democrats were the party of pro-choice, and Republicans were the party of pro-life. But there was room for people who
thought
otherwise.
What's the guy?
And there's not.
Right. What's the guy? Wasn't it like a Democrat in the state house from Memphis that they're kicking out of the party because he's pro-life? Something like that going on here in the state. I don't remember the exact of the story. But I think if the county GOP has their way, they're going to kick Eddie Manis out of the party because of some of his.
They'd love to.
Do what?
They'd love to.
Yeah, and I think if it do what?
The leadership would. The people who actually voted for him, the rank and file Republicans who actually voted for him,
right?
Apparently, think he's fine.
Right.
Or at least they did at the beginning.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. I crown myself super blessed for being in District 18 to have firsthand access to this Eddie Manis story, for lack of a better way to say it, because it's been on what we were talking about, on how hard because even if you're part of the team but not quite part of the team, you're a problem. And like the way the party is reacting to him, and then versus the public, all those different parts and pieces about the Eddie Manis story, I really enjoy, guys, because I like Eddie Manis personally. A couple of times I've met him. He's a cool dude. I haven't been through exactly his voting record, but for the most part, I've tended to been on board with most of what he did, as far as I could tell. But he has so much heat on him for doing what I would consider is the job we elected him to do, which is, we elect you as a person to represent us. You go do the things that you think are right for us. That's what I think he's been doing, and the party hates him for it because some of those things don't line up exactly with what the party wants him to do. And so, I'm 100% in agreement with the tribalism for the hot word that goes around on it.
Getting back to that, I mean, we can use that as another example. 15, 20 years ago, probably less than that, probably 10. If you were a Republican and you thought that Eddie Manis wasn't sufficiently Republican, you would probably support a challenge in the primary. You wouldn't give money to Manis. You wouldn't, you'd just take a back seat. But you wouldn't try to throw him out of the party. And that's what they're trying to do now.
Right.
They've been trying to do since he ran for office was throw him out of the party because he's not sufficiently Republican.
Well,
and that's kind of the difference is that, instead of kind of, tolerating that for now and trying to defeat him at the ballot box next time, they just want to throw him out of the party.
Right, but I think it also illustrates for and again, this is my assumption on Eddie's thought process. I think he thinks himself I think he does think himself as a Republican, although the bylaws are pretty clear that he's probably not for the different bona fide reasons or whatever. But the reality is, any political advisor that's going to be like, hey man, we're going to run this race. You want this seat? You have to pick a party. You can't not be in a party. You you don't fit within the bylaws of the party that you closest resemble. So let's run independent. No, that's a you're running to fail as an independent for the most part. I don't know. You might know this. When's the last time an independent? How many independents are in the state house right now?
None.
Right.
That I'm aware of.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, how many independents are in any state Senate, state house seat? When's the last time we had one kind of thing? It's like, if you're an Eddie Manis and you really want this and you really think you can do good things, you have to at least adjacent play the team game to even have a shot at it. And I think that's part of the problem that makes because it gives the party the power to, I don't want to use I'm trying to think of a better word, to be discriminatory about their candidates, because you have to have them. You have to have the party to be part of the game. And you can't, I don't know. It is fascinating to watch. Like I said, I'm super excited that I get to be in District 18 and watch it firsthand. I really am curious because he's got to run again here next year.
Yeah.
I'm curious how this is going to turn out. I hope they kick him out, and I hope he runs independent, and I hope he beats him. Personally. That's my honest opinion on it.
Nuanced for politics today, man.
Do what?
It's too nuanced for politics today.
I'm just saying, like, I think again, like, this is one of the things, like, this is one of my goals in this. Like, yes, I'd like to get professional. I'd like to get paid sponsorship so that I can quit my day job and do this full time and stuff like that. But I would like to have at least a big enough reach to do some local polling that had some statistical value, So, like, I don't know how many in District 18, probably 200,000. I don't know how big is a state or house district.
You stumped me there.
I think actually,
I had no idea. I don't even tell you that.
I want to say that Massey told me that a state senate's around 200.
State senate could be around 200.
I think she said like 187, and I think it's going to go up this year or something. She was talking about it to me. It's been a year or so since.
I mean, Knox County has I should know the new number right off the top of my head, but it's over 470,000 people, almost 500,000.
Right.
And we have 2 Senate districts completely within Knox County, and another one that's partially in Knox County. So yeah, a couple 100,000,
right?
About right.
And so I assume a state house seat's a little bit smaller, but but again, the point being is, like, I would like to be able to do a District 18 survey. Like, how do you feel about Eddie Manis doing the job? Just like but like that kind of stuff. Like, because I don't know. I mean, I certainly don't see it out of Knox News or WBAR or any of them. Like, I don't see any local level surveys on issues like this. You get what I'm saying?
It costs money, man.
I know. That's what I was saying.
To do a real valid survey or poll,
right,
costs money, and that's why campaigns will do it, because they raise money to do it.
Yeah,
and that's why the rest of us don't, because we don't have money to do it.
Right, but
we have a thing we run every month called the Power Poll, which isn't a it's just basically an internet survey. It's not and we make no bones about it, not a scientific poll. But if you wanted a real scientific poll, it costs money.
I know. I'm still mad that I'm not on the list of Power Poll people.
Well, shoot, Seth. I will.
I just want to.
I have the power to do that.
Ooh, look at the magic happening tonight.
Yeah, you've awakened my power hungry.
Right. But again, like, I think it's disappointing. Like, I think it's disappointing that like, as you were saying, in the tribalism and all that kind of mess, that a candidate like Manis, who, in my understanding of it at least, I feel confident in saying as a District 18 constituent that I'm fairly happy with his job, but there doesn't seem to be any record of that, for lack of a better word. Anybody else, having any sort of survey, poll, any sort of conversation about that. The only really talk that I'll go ahead and put my prediction hat on and say, come January, February of next year, when at least 2 people challenge him for the primary. I'm going to guess 2 people challenge him for that primary seat. One of those people quickly drops out because one will be more popular than the other right off the bat. So we'll have one strong challenger, which isn't going to be Gina this time. But we'll have one strong challenger for that seat, and then we'll get it'll all be the bona fide conversation. And as much as even Eddie tries his best to lean on record, he's not going to get the chance to because he's not going to get the coverage that way. That's going to be my guess on how this moves forward.
Well, and really, most state House members in particular have a hard time building a record,
right?
Because they especially early on, they don't sponsor legislation,
right?
They don't, it's very difficult to get it pushed through.
He's got one session under his belt.
Even if you do, constituents, a lot of them don't care.
Yeah.
So
that's a valid point too. And I don't know. It's just, I guess I'm on Team Eddie. I don't mean to be. I just, I like the story of it, for lack of a better word. I think it's a very interesting microcosm of the big picture of what's going on in politics right now. Is that he is comfortable taking the heat for being his own person and being his own and taking the nuanced approach to issues. And the system at large is not happy with that. And so I like that, that is what I think I'm most interested in about him, is that he's taken a stand to be comfortable dealing with the heat that he gets for being who he is, not just being a party player like he's supposed to be. And I like that about him.
Well, that's certainly a huge part of that whole narrative around his candidacy and his service is that he's he's always said that he's a little bit more independent, thinks for himself. I mean, when you're a businessman, and before he was in politics, I remember he was a successful business owner. And what do business owners do with their political contributions? For the most part, they give to both sides. Right. They hedge their bets.
Right.
They get, they try to get, if there's a Democrat in office, you give to the Democrat. You try to work with the Democrat to get legislation passed that affects your business or your home, whatever. Same with the Republicans, and then he decided to run for office. Of course, the first time he did, he ran for mayor, and it was nonpartisan. Didn't have to worry about it.
Right.
And then, when he decided to run for the state house, he had to be declared. He's more of a Republican than he is a Democrat. And he's just insufficiently Republican for a lot of the leadership of the party.
Right. But again, because that was again the fascinating story of watching that the primary challenge by Oster, and I don't think I would go out on a limb and say of the what did Chris Davis tell me? Yeah, I reference you, Chris. Relax. What do we 270 something thousand registered voters in Knox County or something like that?
Yeah.
I would say I would say 200 plus thousand of those think that they are voting in a primary. That they are electing the candidate to run for the party, which is not factually true. It's generally true, but it's not factually true. The party could have pulled Eddie off the ticket and put Gina in his place, and it was all within the proper legal bounds of the way the system works.
Yeah.
And I think that's the lack of knowledge from the constituency, not knowing that these are things at play, that the party doesn't like you, even though the public does. Well, the party's opinion matters more than the public's does at the end of the day. Now it was close enough. They decided to stick with it. But, I think in hindsight, I think there are probably people in the party right now that wish they would have said, nope, we're going to kick him out. I mean, I know there are, but anyway, I don't know, man. Last call. Anything else you want to do before we call it a night?
I'm good.
All right,
plug. We covered all ground.
I plug you. I plug you guys all the time on the show. Go ahead and plug yourself one time or two or five. It's worth the money, people.
Right.
I just re-up for another year.
Compass. We are at CompassKnox.com. We're a subscription-based local news website and daily email.
The email's the jam.
Yeah. Which is actually probably the most popular thing we do is the daily email that people get at 6 a.m. every day, telling them what's going on and getting, kind of getting an understanding of what's going on in the community. And, but anyway, that's where we are. $10 a month and you'll be informed.
All right. And we're going to start a GoFundMe so that Jesse can get his hair fixed because his hair is terrible. I had to make a hair joke somewhere in the episode because that's what we do.
Well, knowing I was going to be on here, I got mine cut so you wouldn't make fun of it. So.
I never make fun of your hair. Your hair is the beautiful hair. Jesse's got the mess on his head. Like I said, I just passed the year, and so I auto re-up my subscription for another year, and it's been well worth it. And every once in a while you get a killer What to Do on the Weekend, some good movie or book references and stuff like that, which are always fun. Just don't take the memes too seriously. They're just a joke at the end of the email. It's weird when people do that.
We always have a little GIF at the end that's kind of usually it's pretty lighthearted. Sometimes, don't take them too seriously.
All right, so
a lot of times we're adding those at midnight, and we're
sleep deprived.
Kind of.
All right, so I do have one last thing I want to just short answer. Don't go deep into it, but your thoughts on this Satterfield situation, journalistically, not as a I don't know. I guess my understanding of it is that she kind of crossed the line of being a journalist and being an advocate, and that's kind of what got her fired.
Yes.
Okay.
But she has said. I mean, she made the choice to kind of. I hate to use the word violate the tenets of journalism, and especially of her. I mean, you can be an advocate and a journalist at some outlets, but not at
right
the News Channel. It's their ethics policy, says
right.
you don't participate.
I could right,
and she made this conscious choice to do that, knowing full well that what she was doing. So there's nothing wrong with being an advocate. There's nothing wrong with being a journalist, I hope. In some situations you can't be both.
Right. I think that's the bottom line of it. I think I made a joke to somebody. It's that's why I'm never going to even pretend to try to call myself a journalist ever, because if I understand the broad story correctly, I don't know that I could sit by and just report on what I'm seeing happening when I have an opportunity to make an actual direct impact on this shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, it's a fine line, and I've walked it.
Yeah.
If you've done any serious, meaningful journalism, you always have, come up with a situation that you think is unjust or whatever, but you report on it. But most of the time, or the ideal is to set aside your personal thoughts and report the story. And it got to the point with Jamie that she couldn't do that any longer.
Yeah.
There's nothing more. I mean, there's nothing morally wrong with that, obviously. In fact, she would probably argue that she did the morally correct thing to do.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is a journalism ethics violation, and she was called out on it. So, I mean, it's kind of it's kind of fatalistic things where, I'm going to cross this line. They say, don't cross the line. I'm going to cross the line. You do what you have to do. Cross the line. They do what they have to do, and you move on.
And here we are, right? And again, I get it. I get it. I get it on both sides. I don't. I like to bash News Sentinel as much as I can, but I mean, this is not one of the things that I'm going to get mad at them about. I think that they were well within their, duties as the organization to hold that ethics standard to their people, and they did. So I can't get mad at them for it either. It's disappointing, I guess, but the reality is this is the way it should be.
Well, it's the big disappointment is Jamie has been a well-known, very respected journalist for 25 or 30 years, just like Jesse has been, and she's one of the few true faces of the News Sentinel left. I think now that she's gone, I guess John Adams is the only face of the News Sentinel that's still around. She's a tenacious reporter. She was great at what she did. And, I was honored to work with her for a couple of decades, and I learned from her. And but she felt moved to become more of an advocate than a journalist, and
right. Okay.
Power to her.
Okay. Honestly, I was just really tested to whether or not I understood what was going on correctly, and I think I did. So, all right, guys, if you haven't got a Compass subscription, you better go out and get it. Scott, you're the best. I'm going to do an outro.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for having me, Seth. Appreciate it.
Love you having here. I don't even know what I just said. That was a weird phrase. I love having you here. That's the word I was trying to say. Scott from Compass, everybody. We did the show. We did the things. We talked about stuff. I'm really excited about that rural metro thing as much as I like to hate on rural metro. I think that's a good deal. I'm glad I got to hear about that. We're Almost an Agreement. Hit me on an email with it, almostanagreement@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. We have a website. It is almostanagreement.com. You can go there. All the episodes are available there, as well as whatever favorite podcast provider you have. And if you somehow find a podcast provider that doesn't have us, shoot me an email, and I'll see if I can figure out how to get it on there for you. While you're in these places, please like, share, friend, subscribe, follow, retweet, whatever it is. Help us get the word out. We're going to keep trying. Like I said, I got to update my city election cheat sheet. That's almostanagreement.com/cityelections21. You get a list of all the candidates, KGIS, as well as Knoxville or Knox County Election Commission links to make sure you know your polling station and like what district you're actually in and stuff like that. And so we got another big show tomorrow, and then I'm going to start working on, like I said, I'm going to try to do some debates with some of these city council races, as well as trying to work on some other people coming in, and new different fun things are happening. Thanks for listening, everybody.